So this video is taking a look at Unit 2.4. It's a higher level topic. It looks at a critique of the maximising behaviour of consumers and producers. You might remember when we talked about sort of Adam Smith and the sort of supply and demand theory, classical economics as well. An underlying assumption for that traditional sort of approach to how markets work is that the consumer acts with rational self-interest. In other words, they are quite methodical in the way that they think in order to make their choices with perfect information available to them, with an attempt to ensure that they get the most satisfaction that they can from the products that they buy. And that sort of rational choice is not just with consumers, it's also in terms of producers as well, who want to sort of maximize, in their case, it will be the level of profit that they make. So those are quite big, important assumptions. And of course, over time, people have sort of questioned whether or not consumers and producers do behave in this rational fashion. And there is good reason to believe that we don't. And in your subject guide, the various criticisms of this idea of rationality are listed here. That you've got various biases coming into our thinking. We make decisions based on rules of thumb, or just on the first information that we have available to us, or how choices are presented to us. So there's loads of sort of psychological and neuroscience that goes into the decisions that we make as consumers. And even to the point that we can't cope as consumers with being rational all the time. It's not the way that humans live their lives. We're more emotional than that. We make decisions based on emotion. We can only have this self-control up to a point. I mean, some people are different. Some people are more rational than others, but to assume that everybody behaves rationally all the time is stretching the point a little bit. And even this idea of selfishness, because you have to be, for rational self-interest, is this presumption that you are only acting for your own benefit, this selfish approach. Adam Smith talked about, it's not from the benevolence of the baker that we get our daily bread, but from his regard to his own self-interest. That's suggesting that the baker's not really interested in us as consumers. They just want to make as much money as they can. Well, I mean, there's a point to that, but of course, you've only got to look around you to see that people don't always and don't often even behave selfishly all the time. And even that, we don't even access to full information. We're not fully informed. Even with the internet, it's made it far easier to get information. In some respects as well, that information becomes more difficult to obtain, even with the internet. So those are our basic sort of criticisms of rationality. This isn't in the syllabus. Cialdini came up with various different principles of influence. Quite interesting anyway. I mean, if you like this whole topic on nudge theory and behavioral economics, then you'll enjoy reading and listening to Cialdini's principles of how you can get your own way or influence decision making. I particularly like this one about scarcity here. I mean, basically, the assumption is that the more scarce something is, the more likely we are to want it. And we see that all the time if you're going to book a hotel online and you investigate it and you get through, see what the price is for the dates that you want. Often on the screen, it flashes up, last 2 rooms available, and you sort of panic a bit and think, I need to buy that. I need to book that now because it suddenly becomes scarce. Well, they're playing with us, aren't they? They're working on these principles and trying to get us to jump in and buy the product immediately. By the way, this whole topic on rationality and behavioral economics is a great area to think about in terms of extended essays. So if you are looking at an extended essay topic, you could definitely look in this area, and there are lots and lots of different examples where you can sort of investigate behavioral economics. Now, the most sort of famous sort of area of behavioral economics is referred to as nudge theory. So we're being nudged to make decisions, by governments or other authorities. It's important, I think, to remember that we're not being made to make decisions. It has to be in our eyes anyway that we've still had the free choice, but unknowingly or even knowingly, we've been nudged in the right direction in the way that the government or the firm wants us to behave. So, I mean, a very basic one: putting fruit and vegetables at eye level in the supermarket. So it catches our eye, or candy at the checkout. Is a very common example of that. The choice art is often referred to as choice architecture, the design of the ways that we can make choices and how that choice is framed to us. There's three aspects to this. One is called the default choice, um, where the option is already pre-selected for you, and you have to actually opt out. Often you can't be bothered. So the famous example of that is with the sort of kidney donor cards or donor cards in general. That traditionally you always had to sort of opt in and get yourself signed up to the register so that you would donate if the circumstances occurred. And then they sort of changed it so that if you did get a driving license, the default was that you would automatically choose to donate your organs if there was an accident, unless you opted out of that scheme. And of course, people didn't bother to opt out, so they ended up with the sort of donor card given to them. A mandated choice is where you're asked to make a choice before you're allowed to sort of move on, and that's again I've referenced here the donating your organs. Giving a tip in a restaurant, before you can pay, often on the electronic screen, you're sort of asked to make a decision if you're offered fries with your burger. And then restricted choices, where the choice is limited by the government or for another authorities, just like maybe a firm. So credit card companies will say that there is a minimum amount due on the bill. You might have a credit card bill for $1,000, and they say minimum payment is $100. And it seems to suggest that your two choices are either to clear the card in full or to pay the minimum, which is 100. And the credit card company obviously wants you to pay the minimum because then they can charge you more interest. Obviously, you did have other choices. You could have paid half. You could have paid 75% or whatever. But you're not led to believe that you have those choices. There's some slides here just to sort of reference behavioural economics and the COVID sort of crisis. Say that could be an extended essay topic in itself. But that's a whole sort of area of behavioural economics. The second part of this 2.4 is to look at business objectives and whether businesses always aim to profit maximise. I'm not going to say much about profit maximisation here because it is covered in Unit 2.11 when you look at market power. But other than, the idea is that firms will attempt to maximise their profits all the time. And then economists have got different sort of views of what profit means, and that's what I won't mention here, although it's on these next few slides, because you'll come across it later on. Normal profit and abnormal profit, various other distinctions. But what the subject guide does look at are alternative business objectives. So other than profit maximisation, will firms try and do something else? Well, the answer is yes. They might be looking at corporate social responsibility a lot more, increasingly these days, environmentally responsible behaviour that is not necessarily profitable. Firms do that a lot. And then there's three others here. Firms may consider market share to be sort of crucial, that they establish a higher percentage of market share, maybe foregoing some profits in order to do that. Satisficing behaviour is where firms try and aim for a satisfactory level of growth or profit. They're not pushing themselves to the limit to maximise all the time, but a satisfactory level of profit is fine. Or they just want to achieve growth, economies of scale, establish themselves as a company, could be the final sort of objective that they have.